Dear students, let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 08th May 2017. The first article, Turkish Delight Turned Sour by Rakesh Sood. This article is enumeration of the facts which have happened during the visit of Mr. Erdogan to India. And he also enumerated the unique position of the Turkey in the international affairs. So, the Turkey-Pakistan relationship is very strong from the beginning. Mr. Jinnah wanted to make the Pakistan as like progressive Turkey, and both of them are the part of CENTO, that is Central Treaty Organization, and are also part of Organization for Islamic Cooperation. And with regard to reform of the UN Security Council, there is an organization called Uniting for Consensus Group. So this organization consists of both Pakistan and Turkey as the active members. So in this case, the relationship between Turkey and Pakistan is very deep. Only the economic perspective of the relationship made Mr. Erdogan to look towards India. As he is looking beyond the European Union for its trade and economic relations, India appeared lucrative for Erdogan. But if you carefully observe, the Turkey-European Union trade is almost 30 to 40 times more than the India-Turkey trade. So here, what are the stands of India? What are the stand of Turkey on various issues? With regard to UN Security Council reform, he has stated that India with such a huge population need to have a representation in the Security Council, with an added notion that the 170 million Muslims also need a representation in the case of, 1.7 billion Muslims also need representation in the case of UN Security Council. And with regard to NSG, Mr. Erdogan has specifically stated that a criteria-based entry has to be there for non-NPT signatories. It was the stand of China. So, in nuclear suppliers group, India was trying to make an entry. China was planning to bring in a hyphenation between India and Pakistan so that India's entry can be blocked. So here, Erdogan's support is for the Chinese stand. That's what is the second thing. Coming to the Kashmir, you already know that Mr. Erdogan has proposed for multilateral engagement, which was never the position of India. And on Indian side, Vice President Hamid Ansari has visited to Armenia, which accuses Turkey of violation of the human rights during the First World War, where millions of Armenians are being killed by Ottoman Empire then. And then, before hosting Mr. Erdogan, India also hosted the Cyprus president, which has a territorial dispute with Turkey. You know that the Cyprus has South and North Cyprus. The North Cyprus is under the control of Turkey and South under the control of the Greece. So, the time cannot wait for making the Cyprus into one single region or one single country. That's what Mr. Nikos has clearly stated for. And India stated in that context, it is committed to the unity and integrity of Cyprus, which is going to be which was a heartburn to Mr. Erdogan. And let us talk about the Turkey's internal politics. Now, Arab Spring has happened, and Turkey has thought, Mr. Erdogan has thought, Muslim Brotherhood will come in all the countries where the Arab Spring has replaced the existing regimes. As his expectations went, in Egypt, Mr. Morsi has become the prime minister. But however, finally he was overthrown and military took over the power from him. And second is, in the case of Syria, he thought Mr. Assad regime is weak and it is ready to be thrown out. His calculations also gone wrong over there. And third, the Russian intervention was always a pain to Turkey in the case of Syria. And Turkey went ahead and shot down the Russian plane, stating that it has crossed its border. And it led to the imposition of sanctions from President Putin. And finally, Erdogan has to meet him and give his personal sorry to reshape the ties between the countries. And United States, it is using the Turkey bases, air bases, to attack and to provide the air support for the ground forces. Who are these ground forces? These are Kurds. You all know that there is a separatist movement for Kurdistan in Turkey. So, the separatist forces, they are supporting the fight against ISIS in Syria, and air cover has been provided by Turkey's ally, that is United States of America, which is also a pain to Turkey. So it means there are certain gross mistakes which are being done by Erdogan with regard to his strategies in international affairs are concerned. Coming to the domestic politics of the Turkey, you all know that a coup has come up in Turkey. And after this coup, Mr. Erdogan has strengthened his position like never before. In a way, the coup has become an alibi for Erdogan to gain the support and extraordinary powers. So, the army, which is a major power center in Turkey, or which is a stabilizing factor in Turkey politics, it was crippled of all its powers. And then a referendum was conducted, and parliamentary form is converted into a presidential form. And 2 more terms have come for Mr. Erdogan. It means till 2029 he can be prime minister. Now he has power to appoint his vice presidents, chief justice, 12 judges of the Supreme Court. It means a new sultan is born in Turkey. That's what is the Hindu has stated before. So a kind of separation of powers, they got annulled in Turkey, and all the powers got vested with the president himself. So this is how he strengthened. Now, historically also, Ataturk, Nehru, these two are the charismatic leaders. And they wanted to give a secular outlook to their countries. A right-wing domination or shift is also happening in both these countries. It means under Prime Minister Modi here, under President Erdogan there is a kind of a right-wing shift. In Turkey it is towards Islam, here it is towards Hinduism. That's what this article talks about. And next is decoding the doctrine. This is about joint Indian armed forces doctrine. So this armed forces doctrine has clearly talked about a central role to the surgical strikes. And it is going to build in specialized forces towards this. So in this context, what India did yesterday and how it is going to do tomorrow is the question. Are we able to gear up to our challenges and targets which we kept for ourselves? Now, hot pursuit was undertaken in Myanmar, and surgical strikes were undertaken in Pak-occupied Kashmir. And what is the result out of this? One remarkable result is today our conventional options against the Pakistan did not die. So it has been criticized regularly. The Vajpayee government has been criticized, saying that India, by becoming nuclear and Pakistan also claiming itself to be nuclear, India lost the strategic advantage which it had with its conventional forces with West Pakistan. But however, our conventional options did not close with surgical strikes. That is what has been stated. And second, India's nuclear doctrine has to be changed. This is what Manohar Parrikar, the past defense minister, has stated. But this joint forces doctrine did not state anything about this. And where we stand with regard to the modernization of our army, that we need to understand over here. So, previously it was spoken that we need to develop specialized forces for various actions. Where it is, we still don't know. Because the war in space and cyber warfare, these are increasing. So, the specialized divisions have to be created. No such divisions are available till date. Military industrial complex, it has to be developed under the Make in India, but the progress is not clear on the same. Because after Saudi Arabia, India is the second largest importer of the arms. And third is the inter-services theatre commands. It is to bring in greater cooperation and coordination among the armed forces with regard to the field action is concerned. So this was also spoken about, but no significant progress happened on that. And Chief of Defence Staff, this position is not created till date. The special forces, cyber special forces, space-related forces are not being created. Self-sufficiency is not yet been attained. So these are the issues which are painful to us with regard to the armed forces are concerned. And then space for all. This article is in the context of SARC satellite launched by India. The SARC satellite, it is going to provide for communication services to the entire SARC region except Pakistan. The reason is this. So the statement here which I like the most is the SARC satellite more appears to be geopolitical rather than geospatial. Why? So the China, on one way, it is trying to expand its scope in South Asia through One Belt, One Road initiative. And India is providing its cooperation to the neighborhood under its neighborhood first policy through this satellite launch. And second, the China is though providing for space cooperation to Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, but it is very minimal. And Pakistan, it has kept itself out from the SARC satellite, stating that India is not willing to develop it jointly. So India wanted to move forward with SARC -1, the SARC minus Pakistan. So that has been clearly been proven through this. And Afghan president, who is very much worried about Pakistan's stand, or who is skeptical about Pakistan in South Asia, has clearly stated if Pakistan do not allow Afghanistan to trade on the land, it may expand the cooperation from the space. That is what those are the words. But with regard to SARC -1, so to develop the regional connectivity, recently Bhutan, it has moved out from motor vehicle agreement stating the environmental concerns. So BBIN, the Bhutan is out of it. So that's a small step back, but India will be moving forward on this issue. That's what has been hope of the article is. Now, this time with feeling. So this is about amendment to the Banking Regulation Act 1949. Now, you need to understand double or balance sheet syndrome. So what is this? One way, the lender is failing and borrower is also failing. The banks have lended to the big infrastructure projects, and these infrastructure projects, they have failed, or they have become white elephants themselves, which the banks NPAs, which have added to the banks NPAs. So this is what is called twin balance sheet syndrome. So to fight this, we have to increase the functioning or efficiency of the banking sector. And also, the oversight has to be improved. So with regard to autonomy and accountability, there are two things. One is the government has provided a roadmap in the form of Indradhanush. It also brought in independence in appointments through Bank Board's Bureau. And the Prime Minister, he himself was the part of this banker summit to understand the gravity of the situation. So in this, today, with the amendment, the RBI's oversight over the banks is bound to increase. So any debt restructuring or strategic debt restructuring, the RBI can give answers to it. And any application of the bankruptcy, it means either declare it as an NPA or apply for the bankruptcy on that company to take back the money. So these are the two options before a committee will make a decision. And one of the reasons why the decisions do not happen in the banking sector is the POCA, Prevention of Corruption Act. Under this, under 13(1) subclause D, with any good intention, an officer moves forward and takes a step. Tomorrow, CBI, CVC, CAG can harass him. So that's why a kind of decisional paralysis exists in the bank. So this amendment is very crucial for the people to have the initiative. And second is, the sectors, power sector, highways, all these need to be revived. There has to be sectoral improvement so that the twin balance sheet syndrome can be addressed for. And then let's go to the open ed page. Blurring the lines on what is local. So here the question is about accountability at the local level. So accountability can only come up when people directly vote and identify the person who is responsible for the work. So in this case, in India, most of the elections to the office of the mayor are indirect. In the case of Delhi, the tenure of the mayor is 1 year. So what kind of remarkable work can be done within 1 year? And then there are many parastatal bodies. So if you talk about Delhi Development Authority, for the Delhi itself, you have a state government, local government, parastatals like DDA, and the central government. All these are been clubbed together, and the governance is also become so complex in Delhi. If you take law and order administration, it is under Union Home Ministry. And then if you talk about developmental activity under the state government, the land is under the control of the local government. So in this chaos, how the governance can happen? That is what is the question the author poses over here. In this case, if we have to improve the governance, a kind of local structures have to be created which have to ensure accountability directly to the people. Then only the political decentralization is said to have happened in urban local bodies. That's what the author emphasizes. Chaos in Venezuela. So in this case, let us understand how it has started, the roots of the chaos. So when Mr. Hugo Chavez, the most popular leader of Venezuela, was the president, he has initiated a slew of welfare measures. Where he was getting the money for this? From the petrodollars. Because the oil prices are very high and Venezuela has the highest reserves. And then, today the oil prices have slashed. Obviously, the welfare programs also need to slash. So, to provide for the welfare programs, what they did, they started printing for more and more currency. And it has created a huge inflation. And to control this inflation, they have kept certain rationing. To control the demand, how much a person has to get, they kept the rationing. And also to control the demand, the state started artificially demanding the prices. That is, price controls are being put in place. Obviously, the rationing leads to corruption. And price controls leads to decreased supply. As the profits of the companies decreases, they don't produce much. This has pushed the country into further crisis. So what is the way out? So remove this rationing. Let the market forces take the control of the prices. That's what is the solution we can think of at this point of time. So this is what stated. Now let's come to the news page. Japan pitches for Chabahar port. Now, let us see it from the global perspective. On one side, China is bringing with the Belt and Road Initiative. And the second thing is, a democratic access is expected to develop against China. So, if you talk about Malabar exercises, Australia participating in it. Now, India, Japan, Australia, US. This is what is the proposed quadrilateral access by the President Bush when he was in power. So, this is expected to come up now. So, the Chabahar port, which is expected to connect India with the Iran and Afghanistan. An agreement was also signed between these three countries. The Chabahar port, the China is also going to be a partner to India. And then, so Mr. Emmanuel Macron has become the France's youngest president. And the question here is, why the established parties are unable to show their muscle, are unable to show their existence in the France elections? Why across the world people are looking for outside the establishment? So yesterday the article has answered these questions, try to go through them. So it is more in the neoliberal way of politics. And the new people who are outside the establishment, these are actually the beneficiaries of this neoliberalism, and they are not in a position to provide any alternative. And bringing these people to power is just out of desperation for the people. That's what the yesterday's article has explained us. And then the Kejriwal has corruption charges. So one thing I can believe. So Kejriwal, whatever he may do, he cannot be corrupt. At least I can believe to that extent. So this is a political comment. Please spare me from comments on this. Just my opinion I have expressed over here. And then growing militancy in Valley. So this is just an example you can. And coming to the Japanese ambassador's interview, land acquisition is the biggest problem. So that's why he's advising the Japanese companies to have a direct connections with the state governments itself, so that the land acquisition becomes easy. So even Singapore Prime Minister, when he has visited, he has clearly stated that Land acquisition is a complicated issue in India to get for industrialization. So these are the articles for today. Thank you very much and all the best. From tomorrow onwards, I will revive back to the news, that notes. The reason is I want to give the video and then the notes. So by excessively focusing on the notes, how the quality of the video is getting affected, just I was trying to analyze for these 3 or 4 days. And thank you very much. All the best.